August 15th, 1231, 5 in the morning. On the horizon, a dust cloud rises, thick enough to swallow the sun. From the watchtowers of Kuju, the sentries see it, a dark tide of 20,000 Mongol horsemen. The deadliest war machine in human history has arrived. Inside the walls, General Park Seo counts his strength, 300 soldiers and a few terrified peasants. No reinforcements are coming. No mercy will be shown. The world expects a massacre that will be over by lunch. But what the Mongols are about to encounter isn't a fortress, it's a graveyard built specifically for them. By 1231, the Mongol Empire wasn't just an army, it was an inevitable force of nature. In only 25 years, they had conquered more land than Rome had in 4 centuries. From the Pacific to the Black Sea, the message was always the same: submit or be erased. Cities like Samarkand and Merv, hubs of culture with hundreds of thousands of people, had been turned into ash. General Sartak, leading the invasion into Korea, had already crushed 15 fortresses in 3 months. Most didn't last 48 hours. Kuju was supposed to be number 16, a quick stop on the road to total conquest. But Kuju had Park Seo. He wasn't a legendary hero or a high-born noble. He was a middle-aged veteran who spent his free time obsessing over ancient military manuals and engineering. While the Mongols relied on terror, Park Seo relied on cold, hard geometry. He looked at his 300 men and the 2,000 terrified civilians behind him and didn't see victims. He saw a workforce. He saw specialized teams. He saw every man, woman, and child as a gear in a machine designed to do one thing: break the Mongol legend of invincibility. When Sartak's envoy rode up to the gates demanding surrender, the response he got wasn't just a no, it was a declaration of war. Park Seo told the Mongols to come and take what they could because no one was leaving those walls alive. It was military suicide. It was absolute madness. 300 men against 20,000 of the most feared warriors on the planet. The odds weren't just bad, they were non-existent. But as the Mongol war drums began their hypnotic, terrifying thrum, the defenders of Kuju didn't run. They waited. The 5th day arrived with a sky so clear it felt like a spotlight on the slaughter to come. Sartak unleashed 8,000 men in a single wave, supported by siege towers and battering rams that shook the very foundation of the earth. But Park Seo had been busy. As the Mongols swarmed the walls, they didn't just meet arrows, they met rivers of liquid fire. Park had engineered hidden channels along the stone face, pouring boiling oil that coated the ladders and the men on them. The air filled with the stench of scorched iron and burnt flesh. When the main gates finally splintered under the weight of the Mongol rams, the invaders surged inside, screaming in triumph. But the triumph lasted only seconds. They had burst into a corridor of death, a narrow stone funnel Park had built behind the gate. The Mongols found themselves packed so tightly they couldn't even swing their blades. Above them, on concealed platforms, Korean archers opened fire at point-blank range. It wasn't a battle, it was a systematic execution. The Mongols were forced to climb over literal mountains of their own dead just to move forward. By the time the sun set, the unbeatable army had retreated, leaving over 1,000 corpses behind. Sartak was beyond furious. He was humiliated. He shifted to a psychological war of attrition, launching fresh attacks every 2 hours, day and night, to deny the defenders even a moment of sleep. Men began to collapse from exhaustion, falling from the parapets mid-sentence. Park Seo responded by dividing his tiny force into 3 rotating shifts, a revolutionary move that kept his men fresh while the Mongols wasted their energy against shadows. He was proving that while an empire has unlimited men, a desperate defender has unlimited will. By the 17th day, The air around Kuju was thick with the iron scent of blood and the smoke of failed assaults. Sartok, desperate to salvage his reputation, ordered his engineers to build massive elevated platforms to rain arrows down from above. He thought he had finally pinned the Koreans down. But Park Seo had one final, terrifying trick. Using gunpowder harvested from ceremonial rockets, he had turned the very architecture of the fortress into a series of landmines. When the Mongols breached a seemingly weak section of the wall, they didn't find victory. They found a massive explosion that collapsed the stones beneath their feet, burying hundreds of elite warriors in a tomb of rubble. For 30 days, this pattern repeated. The Mongols threw everything at Kuju: catapults, fire, psychological terror, and wave after wave of fresh reinforcements. And for 30 days, 300 men held the line. Every time a Mongol reached the top of the wall, he didn't find a broken enemy. He found a man who had already accepted his death and was only interested in how many Mongols he could take with him. The siege didn't end because the walls fell. It ended because the Mongols, the conquerors of the world, simply could not break the spirit of Kuju. When the dust finally settled, the Mongol legend had been cracked. Sartok eventually bypassed the fortress, but the message had been sent. Innovation had defeated brute force. A handful of desperate defenders had written the bloodiest page in the history of the Mongol conquest, proving that even the most perfect war machine can be broken by an unbreakable wall of will. History remembers the empires that rose and fell, but in the shadows of the Korean mountains, the ghosts of Kuju still stand, reminding the world that numbers mean nothing if you're fighting men who have decided that dying on their feet is better than living on their knees.